Warning: the following video contains depictions of death, torture, and murder, for educational purposes. Viewer discretion is advised.
Last week, you might remember we went to the Dells, and one of the places we stopped at was the Torture Museum, and I didn't show it last week because I wanted to save it for this week and make it a totally separate video. So that's what we're getting this week. We're getting into the Museum of Torture, located at the Wisconsin Dells, and I hope you're prepared for this because it might get a little gruesome. And like most attractions, you enter and exit through the gift shop. And up front here, when you enter the cemetery gates, you'll see rat torture, which I cropped out of the shot because it is pretty gruesome. And we also have this giant rack, nice rack. And if you look here, there's this little pin in the center, like a rolling pin, and it's full of spikes, and I assume that digs into your flesh as you're being pulled in two different directions. Gossiping isn't a good thing, especially if you're forced to wear one of these for gossiping. And if you look over here, you can see an image of what it would look like on a human head, and sometimes they'd attach a bell to it to add to the embarrassment. This is the rake. It would be hung from the highest beam in the barn, and that little center spike would spike through the back of a person, causing them pain until they eventually died. Here's the piety belt. It was said to bring people closer to God, and honestly, if you fell wearing it, you probably did get closer to God. These cages were hung in the air with people in them, and they would be starved, and people would throw rotten vegetables and fruit at them. This device was used on people who were talking smack. They would put your tongue in that clamp, and then they would use those shears up there to cut the tongue off. This poor mannequin has been put in a Chinese death cage. Similar to the one that hangs, this one is on the ground, except for bricks were taken out from underneath the person's foot until they were kind of hanging by their necks. When the leather whip, you can read the sign. This is a chain scourge. This looked like a magician's prop, which I found kind of funny. I've seen similar designs in magic shops. And then this is the lead sprinkler. It would be filled with lead, and you would just kind of shake it around and spray people with molten lead. You definitely wouldn't want to take a nap in here. In fact, it looks like it had been recently used. And if you look, you can see where the blood drains out at the trough in the bottom. Not only were whips on display in the museum, but they also had them available in the gift shop, which I found to be kind of an unusual tourist gift. And here's one of the world's favorite torture devices, the crucifix. I find it really weird people are just willing to wear those around their necks. If you were accused of poisoning someone, you might be boiled alive in one of these solid metal tubs. This isn't an art installation. This cow used to be put over a fire with a person trapped inside, and they would just light the bowl on fire. There were holes in the nose and eyes so you could hear the person screaming inside. Just a quick heads up, the next few images are going to show pictures of John Wayne Gacy's victims, so it might be a little graphic. Now, Disney follows me in every video, but I can't believe that it followed me here in this way. This is an actual painting by John Wayne Gacy. Gacy wasn't the only one with art in the museum. There was also art by Richard Speck. If you didn't show up to church in time, you might be put in one of these. Jeffery Dahmer also made it to the walls of this museum, including this canteen slip where he requested 2 cyanide pills, and the people at the prison didn't find that very funny, so next to it is the write-up about that. Here is a close-up shot of Richard Speck's death certificate. This is an iron gag. It was used for keeping people quiet.
Coulrophobia
is the fear of being tortured by a clown. Luckily, I don't have that because so far all the clowns in my life have been really nice. And if you're planning on being an executioner, you might want to invest in one of these masks to keep the blood out of your face. And the Roman-style whips actually had little spiky metal balls at the end of them. These are the stocks, and if you were caught swearing, you'd be put in those. So a lot of you would be in the stocks right now. If you need one, you could just check the stock market. They used to behead people with axes like these. Put this in your Airbnb. Now, you probably won't get good ratings, but it's definitely a conversation piece. These were devices used to make people just a little bit shorter. Don't get ahead of me, these are the guillotines. Also, what's Andy Warhol doing in that barrel? Also, in your torture Airbnb, you could have an electric chair. It puts the cute in electrocute. A favorite tool of the mobsters, the hook was used to hang people like pieces of meat. This amputation saber would make its victims come up short-handed. Another addition to the torture Airbnb would be this interrogation chair. Victims were strapped in it naked and whipped until they would confess to whatever they were trying to get out of them. Check out this saw. It's also a common magician's prop for sawing a person in half. On my way out, I asked one of the staff members which way to the fudge factory, and they were just a little bit tied up, so I decided to leave them alone. Hey everyone, it's Willow. I wanted to give a huge shout out to our friend Kat, who not only was the reason we got to go to the museum because she paid our cover, but also I wanted to give a shout out to Kat because she is our very first Patreon. And if you want to be a Patreon and get cool things like a postcard sent to you every month, I have all sorts of things available. You can even get souvenirs from places I stopped. This is from the Spam Museum. If you would like to be a Patreon, I put the link in the description so you can check it out and see what the different levels are. For as low as $1, you can get things like exclusive content, behind the scenes footage, all sorts of things. Check it out. Thank you for your constant support, and thank you, Kat, for making this episode happen. I'll see y'all next week.
Try to catch me howling at the moon.